Welcome to the Rethink and Return podcast. My name is Jason Shepard. Every week, we rethink things and return to God's original intention and His design. We generally do 2 recordings a week. One, we revisit a passage of Scripture that thousands of people are studying together in a Sunday gathering or in a house church, and we're just going to dig more deeply into these things that we didn't get to talk about enough or want to talk about more that we're wrestling with. And then we do another recording where we're just working out leadership things, being a pastor and ministry or leading stuff, and wrestling with tensions of how we live like that in our world today. So we'd love for you to like this, subscribe to it, share it with other people. Enjoy the podcast. We'll see you soon. Hey, thanks for joining us on the Rethink and Return podcast. I'm Jason Shepard. I have a conversation with leaders in the kingdom, like the gospel world, the Jesus stuff, who are serving Jesus, who are doing some great things. I love doing this. In my life, I spent a lot of one-on-one time talking with pastors and ministry leaders just about life. And I just decided at some point, I'll just do it on a camera so that we can share it with other people. And so when I have people that come into town, some live around Houston and we do that, but sometimes people come into town for special things and I don't want to miss an opportunity to have a conversation with them. And one of those this week is my amigo, Obi.
Yes.
Good to see you, Obi.
Hey, Jason, thank you for having me. Thank you for having us here at Church Project.
Well, I love it. So right now, what's happening here on our this place is Exponential Espanol.
That's right.
It's an annual national conference. First time to do that here.
First time doing it in Texas.
Yeah, cool.
And yeah, we've been doing it for a couple of years in California. A challenge that we've had is that we do want to make it a national conference. It is.
Yeah.
But in California, with our Latino culture, a lot of the pastors are bivocational, so that they won't travel all the way to California.
Yeah, I get it.
So we wanted to centralize it.
Sure.
Texas is a perfect location for that.
Well, and there aren't enough Latinos in Texas for you, man.
That's right.
Thank God we have a lot. So first, just tell everybody your name and what you do.
Yeah, Obi Arellano. I'm the founder and CEO of Exponential Espanol, which is an organization that helps churches, leaders, denominations with resources to help them multiply.
I love that.
In the church multiplication world.
Well, I love Exponential. I met you through Exponential, right? Because Church Project does a lot with Exponential. We love all of its leadership. We love its mission. And we love that it's just bringing all different tribes together, which is a very unusual thing in this world, right?
Right.
And so to be able to cross denominational lines and even have some fringe theological differences, but central, we're about Jesus and His salvation and working through the church. And so I love Exponential. Why have you loved Exponential? And then I'm going to ask you, let's talk about that just first, because I might press into that a little bit. And then why then did you start Exponential Espanol? So why do you love Exponential so much?
The things that you said are exactly that. I'm a church planter myself. I started really young. I was 22 when I was church planting, when I planted the first church. And I had no idea what I was doing.
Right.
And it was lonely. I would talk about it. Nobody would really add any good comments or valuable things for me continuing to do that. So when I stumbled upon Exponential, I connected with some of the leaders at Exponential at a local context in Chicago, and they told me about Exponential. I went for the first time in 2009, and it was like, these are like my people.
Right.
The conversations that I've been wanting to have with leaders with the type of mindset that I have of, church multiplication, church planting, things like that. I found them at Exponential.
Yeah. Honestly, for me, I grew up pretty monolithically denominational. Like I just only talked with people in my denomination. I had a friend who loved Jesus, but he went to my school in high school and he wasn't in my denomination. And I felt like I needed to evangelize him, right? Because I was just so entrenched in my one denominational thought. And then, studying the scriptures, growing up, starting to work in churches, meeting other people who weren't a part of my denominational tribe, but they loved Jesus as much or more as I did. They were as committed to the calling. Started to open up my eyes to go, okay, I value what I value and believe what I believe, but I also have to value some people who are outside of my really strong circle.
Right.
This is how I describe it, and this is why I think Exponential is a great organization to help fit into this. But again, we're not promoting Exponential here. We're just talking about what you're doing. But I do love it, and I love what you do. And I talk about Church Project here sometimes. But what I believe, I think I grew up on a little bitty stream.
Yeah.
And of belief and perspective and openness. And I think what I believed was really good. Now I'm on a river. I haven't left what I believe, but it's just a lot wider. I do think we need banks on a river.
Yes.
And if not, you have a marsh.
Yeah.
And a marsh isn't really it doesn't do any good for anybody. But a river, so my river is a lot wider than my stream used to be. But I have some banks on the river. The cool thing about an organization like Exponential is it's wide enough to fit almost all of our streams. But it does have some banks that make us feel comfortable. It's not way out there.
That's right.
Have you found that to be true?
Yes. Yeah, I think when I became a church planter, also in a very lineal, like denominational, that was limiting a lot of the things that I was dreaming and doing with church multiplication, and being able to connect with other just thought leaders in this with different denominational backgrounds actually helped me be able to even widen that stream that I was. In a way, I felt like I was creating you're using the river analogy. I'm like using creating a pathway analogy.
Okay,
right?
great, yeah.
Because in the Hispanic church in the U.S., we were not planting churches. We were, and we have been, and a lot, but not with the strategy and the vision to expand His kingdom, expand His river.
Yeah.
And I was questioning the status quo of that time. I've been planting since 2003. I'm 22 years ago that I moved into this, and this idea of collaborating with others. And their different thoughts on how to do ministry and church planting. It's just better for the kingdom.
Yeah, it is.
Better.
So you saw a niche there, an opening, and you started Exponential Espanol.
Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah, I went to Exponential in English. 2009 was the first time, and I kept going for a few years. And I was so passionate about serving the Latino church because nobody was doing what Exponential was doing for the church in general.
Yeah.
And I'm like, we need this in Spanish. And I started telling the leaders of Exponential, why don't you do this in Spanish? And they will give me opportunity to do some of the Spanish workshops and things like that at the Exponential events. But I kept pushing. I'm like, hey, why don't you guys do it in Spanish? Finally, they like, why don't you do it?
Right. That's
why don't you do
that's
it?
That's not what you can do. Your country can do for you.
That's right. And that mindset was like, this is the right mindset to have.
Yeah,
right?
very good.
And I had the permission, I had the support, and ended up launching it because one, the Latino people need this, and two, with the right mindset and the right heart to see the kingdom expand.
Yeah,
man, it's just the best for us, for the church.
We'll switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about a couple of things here. Let's talk about planting a church.
Yeah.
It's hard. I don't care what language you speak, what color of your skin, what community you're in. Yeah. It's hard. It's harder for some more than others, but it's hard for everyone. A true church plant is. And then we're going to talk a little bit about a conversation that you and I had about what the church can do to really step into the Spanish-speaking world. You said something. Well, I'll talk about that in a minute first. So we're going to talk about that if that's okay. But first, let's talk about what is so hard about church plants. So here's a stat. I don't know how accurate it is, but it wasn't that long ago when I heard it. So I don't know what's changed since I heard it, but something like 80% of church plants fail within the first 3 years.
Yeah.
And of the 20% that make it, of the church plants that make it, 80% of those never get more than 200 people, which is fine, but it's really hard to impact a city or plant a lot of churches if you're really, really small. And so that's been a struggle. It's hard to plant a church. Why is it hard to plant a church? Why is it hard to be a church planter? And why is a church plant so vulnerable?
Yeah, man, those are loaded questions and deep questions. I think it's not hard to plant churches because it's still not the norm for the church to be thinking church planting.
Yeah.
So some of the surveys that we've done and studies that we found is that just like 80% don't get past year 3 or year 5, 80% of churches right now are not even thinking multiplication
Totally.
or church planting. So if you're in a culture where that's not even talked about, it's not going to be natural for someone to develop an arm, a muscle
Yeah.
for church planting. It's not going to happen right away, right? We don't get muscles within the first time that we go to the gym.
Yeah, I wish.
It takes time.
Yeah.
I wish, right?
Right.
So for someone to be immersed in a culture for church planting, to make it easier, it's gonna take time. So it's
Yeah.
harder because we still don't live in a church world where that's normal.
That's a great point. Yeah.
Yeah. So then for church planters, it's harder because there's not a lot of resources out there that is gonna help that will help them
Yeah.
in the journey in a stream where they're swimming upstream.
Yeah, you're right.
Right?
Yeah, no, that's really good. I think for us at Church Project, one of the reasons I wanted there to be a Church Project network is especially with us planting a different kind of church. You know, we are a church of house churches, one big
Which
church.
I love the motto, by the way.
Oh, well, I do too because I love the Bible.
Of course.
And, and I think Jesus had a pretty good idea for his church, but I digress.
Yeah.
And so, but I felt more alone than a normal church planter because I didn't have a tribe of anybody who was doing it like me. I didn't have anybody to learn from. I didn't have anybody to, commiserate with or encourage me. And so that's why I started a whole stream of people trying to do this together, a network, because being alone is one of the biggest things that, like, not having somebody to call and understand what you're going through. I mean, that's a real deal, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. So that was going to be one of my challenge that I was going to share. It gets harder when you're alone in the church planting journey.
Yeah.
Not only are we swimming upstream, not only is not the norm, and then to not have somebody that you can just share your burdens, your frustrations, your anger, whatever, that will understand what you're going through, man, that makes it even harder to go through.
Absolutely.
We're not meant to do this type of work alone.
Well, no, but I mean, I even think well-meaning people, like, let's just say there's a sending church, but a pastor who's never planted.
Yeah.
I mean, he walked into an existing building, existing budget, existing people, a history, I mean, there's just so much that a lot of pastors walk into that somebody at some point began behind them, but they have no idea what it feels like to be a church planter. And so I think even well-meaning sending churches who aren't led by somebody who has planted, they can't identify with it because it is unique. You're pastoring and you're planting, and those are two different things.
They are.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it gets that dynamic of the sending church to the planting church, doing it together, it's a great start, right?
Yeah.
The fact that a church planter don't have to leave a church on their own and plant a church.
Totally.
But if they can be sent by the church, I think that's a step in the right direction.
It is, yes.
But it's just a step in the right direction.
They need more.
They need more.
Yeah.
Because I think the sending church, they need to learn how to be a sending church. It's not just finding the leader that they're going to send to a building they already have, or
right.
or start something new. And even if they don't have a building, it's not just doing that. Like, there's muscles, there's practices that a sending church needs to have, not just to send, but to accompany long term.
That's right.
And I feel like we're not seeing a lot of those sending churches commit long term for that type of work.
You're right.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a great point. So now, I mean, we're in a different, we're only 15 years old. But I mean, we went from 40 people to now a big church, and now we're sending and helping plant. So we're still learning too how to be a sending church. We went from just being a church plant to then a church trying to survive and exist and become healthy to now we're learning. So I love that a prevailing model, traditional model, whatever kind of church would say, we don't know it yet, but we have to get into it. Like I think there may be existing churches today who would say, we're not a church planting church, and we don't know how to do it. Neither did I.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to plant a church. I just did it. I planted a church, and then I didn't know how to help somebody else. Like our early church plants that we tried to help didn't go well. We didn't know how to resource them, encourage. We didn't even know how to vet the right people. And so I would tell a church, one, just commit to do it because you're called to. It's a biblical model. It's historic, ancient, global. And secondly, then start to learn from people who have gotten good at it. But don't neglect it just because you don't know it, right?
I think the mindset of learning from others that have gone before.
Yeah.
We need to change that. I think pastors, we can be so. We need the revelation of God so that we can do it.
Yeah.
Right. If you revealed it to Jason and not me, God's not speaking to me.
That's right.
But the reality is that God has always taught or spoken to leaders that have revolutionized the culture of their time, sometimes through what God spoke to someone else.
That's right.
And I think if churches now can have a learning posture, and if they really want to commit to multiplying and becoming a reproducing church, man, don't start from scratch. There are already so many good churches.
That's right.
That have been doing it for 15 years, like Church Project, and they have the heart to show and teach and just share what we're learning. Right?
Absolutely.
And I think if we can take those steps, and if we can find those churches that have gone before us, just to connect and let's buy you coffee, let's get on a Zoom call or whatever, and be just have some good questions and learn and a learning posture. We don't have to start from scratch.
Yeah.
And we can get more churches on jumping on board.
That's right.
To continue getting to the goal of, we want this to be the norm. At Exponential, and we talk about this all the time, we want multiplication to be the norm, to be the measure of success of any church.
That's right. And for us at Church Project, not only do we want multiplication, but some of the networks that we talk to now, the question I ask them is, what kind of church are you planting? Because we're having 3.5 to 4 times as many churches close their doors as new ones that are starting. So we have to start new churches. But this is what I've been saying to people. We're starting churches just like the ones that just closed. We're planting churches just like the ones that just died.
We've been in this cycle for like 20 years.
Exactly.
Yes, I love that we're questioning that kind of stuff. And I think there's very few leaders that are willing to make the difficult decisions or even say the difficult things.
Oh, yeah.
To start changing the reality that we're facing and we've been facing in this,
You're right.
What's the little wheelhouse that little rats kind of...
Oh, yeah. I know what you're talking about.
We strive for that. We want to do it, but we don't want to change the wheel.
That's right.
Yeah.
We need to. That's why, the name of this podcast is Rethink and Return.
Yeah.
But I named it that because these are our words. This is my original thought. Like, we have to be willing to rethink. Yeah. But if we're just rethinking and starting the next thing, I think we need to return to, the enduring beauty of the church. I think the church that Jesus built would have been durable.
Yeah.
And I like to say the church that Jesus built can endure pandemic and politics. It endured a whole lot of stuff for thousands of years. And so for us to get away from his model and his plan, it makes no sense to me. So that's why for me, I wanted to rethink by returning to the scripture and seeing what it said. So Church Project Network is now led by Pablo DiGilio, who's a good buddy of mine. I love him. I have much respect for him. In fact, today at lunch, my wife and I, Brooke, were talking about Pablo, right? His wife, Michelle, is here. Bai and his wife, Michelle, who are from Querétaro, Mexico, are here, who pastor the church that Pablo
got to meet them, so great guys.
Oh, incredible guys. And so, so Pablo, you and I introduced you to him, I think, in Exponential in Orlando. And then you said something to me that I actually hadn't thought about before that moment. You said, hey, for those of us in the Spanish-speaking world, it means a lot to us, or we see it. I don't want to put words in your mouth, so you can rephrase it if you want, but that you hired a Latino to lead something so significant. And honestly, I know this sounds maybe not believable, but I hadn't thought of that up until that moment because I didn't think, I'd love to hire a Latino to lead this. Yeah. I just thought, man, I need to hire somebody who I think is the best. They match our chemistry and our DNA, but they're an effective leader, and they match our culture. We have chemistry. So that person happened to be Pablo, and he happened to be Latin. But it's curious for me. I think Church Project has proven we have a deep heart for multiculturalism. At the same time, most Latin churches are primarily Latin. Most African American churches are primarily African American. Most white churches are primarily white.
Yeah.
Though that's not our goal for you. I don't think you're like, we don't want white
Not at
people,
all.
or we don't want, but it just seems to be that I get it. I mean, this is a touchy subject and everybody's scared about it, so say what you want or don't want to say. But I mean, I think it's a curious thing that everybody of every skin color and every language needs to look at and say, what is our goal? I know schools of thought, godly, biblical, humble, thoughtful people who have different perspectives on how far we should go or not go. We shouldn't pursue it or should. But, I have thought actually a couple of times about what you said to me, and I'm not even sure, if there's anything to do with it, but I was curious about it. Like, why is that a thing that, hey, we hired somebody who happens to be Spanish speaking, bilingual, and happens to be Hispanic for Church Party Network? Why is that a thing?
Why is it like? Why was I even grateful for me to?
Why did you notice it? Why did you say something about it? What's curious about it?
You know what? It's so I'm a minority. I'm Latino, right? And I've been in the church planting world for 20 years, and I've been in ministry, and I've had conversations. I've observed leaders of denominations. I've observed leaders of organizations, of businesses in the U.S., and it's hard for me to pinpoint or find one of those where a Latino is leading the organization or the ministry or something. Typically, what I've seen in my 20 years of ministry is that the Latino guy, he's like the poster child of the Latino thing that they're doing.
Yeah.
Oh, this is our guy for our Spanish speakers. And I mean, I'm Mexican, right? So we pay attention to that. Not naturally, not that we're trying to be picking at all this all the time. It's just a natural thing for us.
Yeah.
Why is the Latino guy only leading the Spanish speaking stuff, right? It's not a bad thing. Like, I have nothing against that.
Because just to add this paragraph in here, or parentheses, you need a Spanish speaking guy to lead your Spanish speaking ministry.
Yes.
So, but if the only thing that the church entrusts a Hispanic guy to lead is the Hispanic thing.
Yeah. So I'll be honest with you. When you first mentioned that Pablo was leading Church Project Network, I thought he was only leading the stuff that you guys were doing in Mexico and Latin America. I'm like, oh, that's cool. That's great. But then you emphasize, no, he's our director for all of Church Project, like in all of the churches everywhere. I'm like, oh, like it took me aback. I'm like, that's cool. And the fact that you didn't even realize that you had done this and had Pablo as
or that was a thing,
or that was a thing, like that even showed me your heart, that you're not even doing it to have a poster child in your ministry either.
Yeah.
Because there's the other thing, like if we'll have someone who's not white be the leader of the organization, sometimes there's a motive behind that also.
Yeah.
Like, hey, we wanna appear more multicultural, or the motive is still internal. It's for their own gain, if you will. Does that make sense?
No, it does. And I know the conversations like, and again, I don't know how far I want to go with this, and you may not want to be at the table for it, But I mean, I don't know many of my friends who lead African American churches who are hiring white pastors to try to get more white people there, or my Hispanic friends who are trying to hire more black guys or white guys to, and so, but I do see a lot of white people trying to do that, and maybe they're not sure what to do. And frankly, I'm not really either. Yeah. What I do know is that I love the beauty of the body and all of its complexity and all of its color and all of its languages. I mean, I've been to 40 or so countries. I mean, we have pastors we speak to on a regular basis from almost every continent, and different languages, different colors of skin. I love the beauty of the church, and I don't think the church looks like me. I'm a very small part of the very big and beautiful church.
Yeah.
So I want my church to be more multicultural. I want it to reflect our local community here. And at the same time, I don't want to contrive things. Yeah. I don't want to say we need to hire somebody that looks like this to get more people like this.
Yeah.
Although that is a strategy that seems to work for some people. And so I think it's an unusual thing that I like to talk about with my friends who are Hispanic or Black or Asian or Indian, and especially in Houston. I mean, we're the most multicultural city in America. But most churches are fairly monolithic, even in all these cultures. I mean, if you go to a Korean church, it's almost 100% Korean. Am I mad at them about that? I'm not.
No.
You know, but what do we do? And so I do think this is part of it.
Yeah.
And I get to do this kind of stuff a lot.
Yeah.
But it's a thing for churches, and I'm not really sure what to do. But when you said that to me, it just struck me and stuck with me a little bit.
Yeah, it's a real thing. What you're saying right now about why are not these other ethnic, cultures, Latinos, African American, Asian, why are they not pushing for like their multiculturalism? I think that's also not right. We have to be able to, if we're gonna be expecting it from the white church, just in general here in the U.S., expecting them to have a more multicultural appearance and reaching and things like that, man, we gotta do the same thing. And I challenge my people. I get to lead and talk to hundreds and hundreds of pastors on an annual basis. And a lot of things that we don't talk about is this thing. We can get pretty deep. We can get pretty deep right now. And I challenge them like, hey guys, we cannot just expect the predominant culture, the white church in the U.S. to do certain things, but we're not willing to.
Well, do you expect it? Okay.
Yeah.
Let's not go too far with this, but like there's an African American pastor and theologian who I listen to a lot, and he doesn't think we should be trying to do that. And so I don't really know how far to go either. It's a thing, and so for me, I'm like, hey, Lord, we're gonna make disciples. We're gonna preach the scriptures. We're gonna gather in community. I mean, one of the things I really love about the way that we gather at Church Project is we gather geographically, and so it forces diversity.
Yeah.
So if you want to be a part of this church, you go to the house church closest to you, and that house church is going to have people of different color skin.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not like here's the white, Black, Asian,
right.
Latino house churches, right? I mean, it's just like, go to the house church closest to you. And we got diversity of socioeconomic diversity, generational diversity, diversity of spiritual maturity, and culture, customs, skin color. The language thing is a really difficult thing that we haven't talked about yet, and I don't know if we'll have time, but to move on from the last thing about when you're trying to lead Latin American church planners to become more multicultural, what drives that from you, that leadership from you, and what do you want them to do?
Well, first of all, I think we have to understand the context in which we're doing ministry, right?
Okay.
Like, if I talk to pastors who are in Houston, we're in Houston right now, it's easy to talk and challenge to do multicultural things because even in their surroundings, they're gonna see white, Latino, like everything.
Yeah.
So it's a natural thing. I think we just need to reflect where we are.
Yeah.
But if I go to the middle of Wyoming, we cannot like challenge them to be multicultural because there is no diversity.
Yeah.
It's just the context of where they are. So I think the context in your city or the region where you're at will dictate a lot of what you need to do. But beyond that, I think if we read the Bible, and I think we all do. I think we should be, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, hopefully.
And if we want to see our church become how Jesus wants the church that he started.
That's right.
Then he did not start a church that looked just like the church planter
That's
did.
right.
You know what I mean? So that's applied anywhere. That's applied.
It wasn't just a church for the Middle Eastern Jews.
Not at all.
Yeah.
That's right. Or the ones who spoke Greek or Arabic or
Hebrew.
Latin or Hebrew.
Right.
It was for everybody.
That's right.
So they started a very diverse and multicultural naturally just because they understood what Jesus did.
Yeah, I love it.
And that's why they were able to get everywhere.
Yeah.
So containing that to our churches, just because we're Latino and my people don't speak the language here, which that's another conversation like we may not get to. I think we're just limiting the capacity and the
Totally.
potential that God is calling each of us to do.
So good.
Yeah.
I mean, what I really hope from our people here is that every one of them will care deeply about their neighbor
Yeah.
and be looking for an opportunity to have what we lead through here, good God gospel conversations, and that we would have no limitation on that based on age or socioeconomic graphic or color of skin and or culture. And so if our people are working with and living by and traveling with, and I mean, they're in relationships with people in our community, I mean, we should be sharing the gospel with whoever's around us.
That's right.
And so if you're in the middle of wherever you said in Wyoming and everybody looks like you, well, they look like you in skin color and language, but they're going to look like you different levels of spiritual maturity.
That's right.
They're going to socioeconomically maybe different.
Yeah.
I just think we need to make sure that believers, and you just touched on it, are supremely interested in our neighbor becoming a follower of Jesus, and that we wouldn't let any limiter, even in our minds or our hearts, to keep us from sharing the gospel. And so, I think I've come a long way in this. I grew up in a smaller East Texas town. I didn't really hear conversations like this. I didn't really think about it, but of course the scriptures showed me things, and then the Spirit of God convicted me, and so now my antenna is really up for it, and I'll still keep growing in it. But I really love having thoughtful, loving, biblical conversations about this with people. You and I get to be around a lot of people who are giving their lives to the kingdom.
Yeah.
And I'm 51. You're in your 40s. If I just did the math, 43.
Yep.
Oh wow, good.
Yeah.
I was listening
Good
to.
guess. That's a great
It
guess.
wasn't a guess. It was quick math.
Yeah,
You did a 21 and 23 years and 22 years. All that. So you're 43. I'm 51. I'm not the oldest guy in the room, but I'm by far not the youngest guy in the room anymore. So in some ways, I had to shift my own thinking, right? Because I just thought like the youngest guy in the room for a long time, and I was the youngest guy in the room. And then I would be in this room of leaders, and I was the youngest guy, and I got to learn from them, and I started leading. But I had to shift my mind at some point about what is now my responsibility, that I'm not the youngest guy in the room anymore. I'm older, I have some experience, and so now I need to share more of my life with people. So we give a significant perspective, like we're looking outward here too. Like we're keeping this place healthy, but all of us here, we have a saying on our wall, I guess y'all have seen it this week, but it's everyone here is for the church everywhere. Everyone here is for the church everywhere. So everything we build here, we build it with the idea, how can we share it? Like our Good God Gospel was built for our people here. I did that to help train them in evangelism, but now it's translated into 25 languages, and it's coast to coast being used. Like I think we have to start thinking as a church, how do we exist? Like if all of the churches here would say, we exist for the kingdom, so we're going to take our name off of this. It's not, my name's not on it, our church's name's not on it, but we're going to share it with the kingdom. But also not just the church, but leaders have to go, I need to help other pastors and leaders. You're doing that with your life, and I'm really grateful for that. So as we close, what are your thoughts on the joy that you've had from you were a church planner and pastor yourself, and now you're helping others? So the joy that you have, and then the calling you would give to other pastors to do the same.
Yeah, I think the joy comes from my own experience. As I started being a church planter young, I had no idea, just out of Bible college. I had no clue what I was doing, but I was passionate and obedient. But what I learned is that nobody else was willing to guide me through my early years as someone going into ministry, whatever ministry, but as a church planter specifically. So I struggled a lot my early years. I kept knocking doors. I tried to hey, I would go to pastors really. I'm almost asking directly, can you be my friend?
Yeah.
Can
I
you
did that
walk
too.
with me?
Right.
And man, I kid you not, I had some pastors just shut the door in front of me.
Totally.
It's like, oh, are you serious? Is this how ministry's gonna be like?
Totally.
And it's not.
That's right.
So then when I started maturing and realizing, I ended up finding leaders that I needed to know that I could count on them to just walk my journey with. And now, just thinking back, 20 years, and be able to learn so much so that more young leaders don't have to go through that
That's
struggle.
right.
That gives me joy. Like,
Yeah.
I want to create spaces
That's
so
right.
that they don't struggle through what I struggled
That's
20
right.
years ago. Because it was a good chunk of time, a few years of like, man, I don't want to do this. If ministries like this,
That's right.
there's no joy in this. But then I found joy. I found some friends. I found some pastors, some church planters that some I don't get to see maybe once a year. But when we see each other that once a year, man,
Yeah.
it's like no time has gone by.
Yeah.
And we still love each other, support each other.
Yeah.
And I want more, especially church planters, especially young leaders, to experience that so that
Totally.
they know, like, man, this actually can be fun.
Yeah.
You know, we can actually make it fun as we
right.
do ministry.
That's right. Hard but fun. Yeah.
Yeah. So in what I can with the influence at Exponential Español, the experiences that we create is, to be able to offer that as well.
Well, gracias a Dios por usted, por tu familia, por tu iglesia, por tu
Yeah.
ministerio. Yo hablo poco español. ¿Tú conoces esto?
Sí, claro.
Gracias. I mean, I love, if you drop me in a Spanish-speaking country for 3 days, I'll be good by the third day. I practice this.
Come back. So I just moved to Mexico City. Part
See?
of the strategy is to start bringing Exponential Español to Latin America.
Yeah.
I say that, but you want to come to Mexico City and have some good tacos, good food, and be able to help even more church plants in Latin America.
Yeah.
Man, let's do it.
Well, I'll be in Querétaro
Yeah.
at Church Project there in a few weeks. And so maybe I'll tag on to Mexico. I've been all over the world. I've been in Mexico literally maybe 70 times, 70,
so
70.
cool. Yes,
But I've never been to the city.
Seriously,
I've never been to Mexico
you land
City.
there and then you kind of drive.
No,
or
I
fly.
usually fly to Querétaro, but
Okay,
I'll figure out what
directly.
to do here, yeah.
Man, I mean, if you'll be there, I'd love to come and hang out with you.
I would come there for you.
In
Yeah.
Querétaro. Yeah.
Well, I will be in Querétaro. We'll talk later, but
Yeah,
I'll be in Querétaro in a few weeks for
Yeah.
another Church Project Network.
That's awesome.
All the Latin American churches come there.
That's awesome.
But man, I knew this would be a great
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah.
I have a lot of love and respect for you.
Thank you.
And I'm grateful for your life and ministry.
Yeah.
And I look forward to doing more of that together.
Yeah, and can I say, I mean, what you've learned and what I've witnessed from what you're doing now, you're like actually saying or doing the things that you're saying. You're not just teaching or sharing your experience or your frustrations or whatever. You're actually doing something about it with what you have, with what God has blessed you with, right?
Yeah.
With your people, your leaders, with the facilities that you have. And to witness that, thank you for doing that, Jason.
thanks for saying that,
doing
Obi.
That, of course.
I say we have a lot of philosophers, but few practitioners.
Yeah.
We got a lot of people out there talking about it, but a lot of the people telling us what to do, they haven't done it. So first, before we ever did a podcast or anything, we're going to well, we didn't do a podcast till we were 15 years in.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, we're going to prove this first. We haven't earned the right to talk about it. We need practitioners. And so
right.
now that we've been practicing it, now we'll share it.
Yeah, let's go.
Thank you for being on this podcast today. Enjoyed it. Thanks for your work with Exponential Español. And hey, thanks for listening to this. Here's all we ask of you. Like it, subscribe to it, and share it. That's it. Like it, subscribe to it, and share it because we want other people to have this. That's the only way they will. You're great. Have a great week. See you soon. Thanks for spending time with us today on the Rethink and Return podcast. Here's all we ask from you. Will you subscribe to this, share this, let other people know about it? That'll help us get the message out. Share this content with other people if it's helpful to you. We're grateful for you. See you soon.